Democrats. Do you think that the Democrats should be able to pick a replacement for Graham Platner? He's had all these new allegations that have come out. Now Democrats are talking about picking a replacement for him. Should they be able to do that?
They're picking what?
A replacement for Graham Platner if he steps out of the race.
So he won the primary.
And now there's these new allegations.
It's very hard for them to do. And it's really a question of whether or not you believe the woman. A lot of people say big falsehoods. It's he's in a bind. He's in a bind. But should they be able to do it? Well, I guess he's going to lose. I would imagine he's going to lose. It's very interesting when a Republican woman came out with the same charge, nobody believed her. When this woman came out, everybody believed her, right, Doug? Did you get any pictures of it, Doug? You don't want it.
Can I make a point briefly about the question you asked Philip? He has no leverage here.
He being whom?
Graham Platner.
No,
I keep seeing reports in media and talking heads and whatnot say that Graham Platner has leverage. He has no leverage. He has been credibly accused of sexual assault. And this is a moment of reckoning for the Democratic Party. Why do we keep allowing this to happen? It was Eric Swalwell, now it's Graham Platner, and maybe there are more. So nobody should be looking at Graham Platner for where we go next. We should be looking at the people of Maine, the convention that they're going to hold inevitably, and see where that goes. But if Graham Platner is at the front of this saying, no, I want to stay in the candidate, I think people should tell him to kick rocks.
Well, that's fine, but the only thing he brought was
What's going on, family? Welcome back to the channel. So today we got a story that's honestly hard to watch if you care about common sense and politics. Former MSNBC host, now known as MS Now, no longer MSNBC, but Joy Reid went on her podcast and basically told Maine Democrats that if the Democratic Party doesn't replace their Senate candidate with another progressive, they should stay home on election day. Now, let me set the scene for you real quick so you understand what we're talking about. Graham Platner was the Democratic nominee for Senate in Maine, running against Republican Susan Collins. Platner won the primary with about 72% of the vote. He's what most people would call far-left progressive. Some folks even call him a socialist or a communist, and that's not just name-calling. He's openly aligned with the Democratic Socialists of America. But here's where it gets complicated. Platner was accused of sexual assault by a woman he was in a relationship with. He denied it, but the allegations caused enough damage that he decided to drop out of the race. So now Maine Democrats have to pick a replacement, and that's where Joy Reid stepped in with some strong advice. Joy Reid on her podcast said that if Democrats replace Platner with what she called an APAC moderate or a sellout moderate, then voters have her permission to stay home. She literally said, "You have my permission to not vote for them."
Already announced plans for a nominating convention. In his video, Graham says what comes next must come from the people of Maine. That ask comes as the state party accuses him of trying to manipulate the replacement process. People who could potentially succeed Platner include former Maine Senate President Troy Jackson, former Maine CDC Director Nirav Shah, and Maine Secretary of State Shanna Bellows, among others. Platner's team, meantime, will likely face scrutiny over his vetting process. The New York Times reports a top Platner advisor had promised a national Democratic strategist that they would not launch a campaign without completing a full investigation of Mr. Platner's background. But according to two people familiar with the campaign's operations, no extensive effort was undertaken in one of the marquee races of the midterm cycle. They did not do exhaustive interviews with Mr. Platner. Maine Democrats have until July 27th to pick a new candidate. Emily?
Madeline, thank you.
And it also requires us to participate in a process that is inclusive and transparent, representative, and fair.
So if I'm in Maine tonight, I'm a state legislator or I'm a farmer, and I think this is my moment, I'm going to step forward, I'm going to run for this. What do I do? What's the process?
Well, there's process details forthcoming. We convene special meetings of both our executive committee and our Democratic State Committee. Those two committees together make up the governing body of the Maine Democratic Party. What I am very excited and proud to share is that the process that we have put in place to convene a nominating convention was voted on by those Maine Democrats. The details are forthcoming. We are seeing folks that are going to be doing media and press tonight, tomorrow, opening exploratory committees. Those folks are going to be running a campaign, and we really encourage people to do that. We are, of course, going to require folks to talk to Maine voters in some way that's going to qualify them to be our U.S. Senate nominee beyond just declaring their intent. What that will most likely look like is petition collection from Maine Democratic voters across the state.
You won and you went on to represent Maine in the Senate. Would you vote for Chuck Schumer as leader?
I would not vote for Chuck Schumer as leader. Look, as myself, I'm running to be a new voice in the Senate, a new generation of leadership. I think it's time for some turnover. So just as I think we need new senators in the United States Senate, I think we need a new generation of leadership. So therefore, I would not vote for Chuck Schumer as leader of the Democratic caucus.
So that is the current state in regards to the Democrats figuring out how to replace Graham Platner representing the Democrat Party. Now here goes what I was referring to of Joy Reid entering the chat.
Progressives picked Platner. So you need to replace him with somebody who is ideologically the same. Because that is what was decided. The people of Maine, the Democratic voters of Maine said, we want a progressive. They did not say they want an APAC moderate. So the Democratic Party in Maine ought to pick someone who is ideologically the same or ideologically similar as Platner. If you don't, and the DNC shoves an APAC candidate down your throat, you have my permission to not vote for them, because the Democratic Party needs to learn that it is not vote blue no matter who. It matters who. They sometimes need to lose in order to learn. Sometimes when you lose, you learn. And I'm just telling you right now, if they put a little APAC, send Israel all the bombs, give Saudi Arabia all the money, let the UAE run over us and give Trump another plane. If they put another APAC sellout moderate in place of Graham Platner, and they do not put somebody in who is his same ideology, you have my permission to stay your ass home. Then they will learn when Susan Collins gets 6 more years. At this point, we have to teach Democrats. We need to instruct them and teach them how to treat us. It's like being in a relationship. You got to teach people how to treat your ass.
You know, the good thing about it is 6 more years, if she gets in, she might go the way of Mitch McConnell.
She'll be glitching and freezing.
Exactly.
Glitching and freezing, because they don't never want to retire. Why that old lady still? She needs to retire too. But you know what? Leave her in there.
Isn't she older than Mitch McConnell?
Probably. I mean, at this point, they're all 100 years old. But the reality is we're going to focus on the races where the people get to choose the ideology of what they want. People didn't pick Graham Platner because of his stupid tattoos. They picked him because...
And there you have it. Joy Reid, and we'll go further in what she was saying. But you guys heard it. She literally said, you have my permission not to vote for them. She said the Democratic Party needs to learn that it's not vote blue no matter what, or no matter who it matters. So, and she even said sometimes they need to lose in order to learn. So not only did she say it's not vote blue no matter who, it matters who, then also they need to lose in order to learn. Now, on the surface, that sounds like somebody standing on principle, right? She's saying the party should respect what primary voters wanted, which was a progressive candidate. But when you actually sit back, family, and think about what she's really saying here, it gets a lot more interesting. She's telling voters to boycott the general election if they don't get the exact kind of candidate they want. That means she'll rather see Susan Collins win 6 more years in the Senate than have a moderate Democrat in that seat. Think about that for a second. The same party that spent years telling people that every election is the most important election of our lifetime, that democracy itself is on the line, that you have to vote no matter what, is now having one of the biggest voices tell people to stay home if they don't get their way. And here's what I find really fascinating. The same people who push the narrative that Republicans are a threat to democracy are now saying they'd rather lose than compromise. That doesn't sound like people who care about winning elections. That sounds like people who care about controlling the party direction more than they care about actually governing. Joy Reid admitted that losing might be what it takes to teach Democrats a lesson, as you heard. But here's the question nobody's asking. What lesson exactly are they teaching? If the lesson is that the party should listen to its most extreme voices, even when those voices pick the candidate with serious baggage, then what have you really learned? The progressive wing of the party picked Graham Platner. He won the primary, and now he's out because of allegations that came to light. And now Joy Reid is saying, trust the same people who picked him to pick the next guy. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you say it out loud. Let me break this down in a way that connects to regular life, because this is where the real lesson is. Imagine you're part of a group project at work. You and your team pick someone to lead the project. That person ends up having problems and has to step down. Now, the boss says, okay, let's pick somebody else to lead. And instead of picking the person who can actually get the job done, you insist that the new leader has to think exactly like the last guy, even though the last guy's approach caused problems in the first place. That's not principle. That's stubbornness. And in politics, stubbornness costs seats. It costs policy wins, and it costs the ability to actually help people. When winning becomes less important than being pure, you lost before election day even gets here. Now let's go on to continue to see what Joy Reid had to say and expound on.
I'm seeing some comments in here. People are saying Platner should stay in. I know it's kind of late.
Too late. The reality is, well, I mean, look, if he look, this is where we have the grown-up conversation.
And I don't want to say
y'all
that
have
because
7 days, but it's clear that the people who oppose Platner, and it would not surprise me.
I don't want to get them bastards a win. I'm dead.
But what I'm saying is, they're going to keep throwing more of this at. They're going to be women coming out the woodwork making these allegations. They're going to keep doing it until he either loses to Susan Collins, who, by the way, voted to confirm Kavanaugh. So there's not a lot of righteousness on the Republican side. That woman voted to affirm to send Brett Kavanaugh to a lifetime seat on the Supreme Court, despite the fact that he was credibly accused of sexually assaulting a high school classmate and had other women during his college years make similar allegations. She didn't have a problem with that. So she's not going to be able to say a whole hell of a lot if Graham Platner's the nominee. She better not say a whole hell of a lot, because it's like, excuse me, ma'am, you didn't have a problem with Kavanaugh. Talk to us about Kavanaugh, and then you can talk about Platner. So he could really literally say that. Right. And does the DNC know how to vet candidates? Clearly not. And this wouldn't be the DNC, but also the DSCC, the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee. Do they vet anybody? Clearly not. Or neither does the D-Trip, because what's his name was in there? Sorry, Jason.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, if Bernie Sanders backs away, and if a couple of these other people like him back away, then you know the writing's on the wall. He's got to go. But I'm torn on this because I personally think he should stay in and run.
You think he should stay? I mean, the reality is, I'm saying as a matter of pragmatic politics.
I get what you're saying, and I don't want to be that guy saying that, but I just think he should just stay.
It's up to Maine, to me. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to tell y'all, Democrats. If that fool stays in, I don't want to hear another word about it. Beat that heifer on the other side. Stop bitching and moaning about it. Y'all either keep them and stop bitching about it, and put your head down and run through the damn tape, or he gets out now while Democrats have time to find somebody else that can run without having all of this baggage. But
they don't have enough time for that.
person.
It's going to be an AIPAC person. They don't have enough time. It's going to be an AIPAC person. If somebody's not in the race now, they don't have time. And the easiest person to do, AIPAC said, we got a whole bunch of people we can put in that spot.
They have, I think if AIPAC can come up with someone, so can the progressive. If there's somebody, and I don't know Maine politics well enough to know who that might be, but you cannot tell me that this is the only progressive available that doesn't take PAC money and is not going to be beholden to Israel and literally sending bombs.
Trust Chuck Schumer to find that person?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not trust Chuck Schumer to pick. I do not trust the DSCC.
So who else is going to pick?
I do not trust them at all. I think the progressives in Maine, the same people who picked him, need to tell us who your plan B was. I hope y'all had a plan B like they did in California when Eric Swalwell was your plan A. Y'all didn't have a plan B. So look, y'all weren't even ready for that. So y'all need to be ready. Y'all not vetting these damn candidates. What's wrong with y'all? Let's do one more story.
There you have it. And look, I got to say something about the double standard and all of this, because it's impossible to miss. The same people who spent years say believe all women are now saying Graham Platner should have stayed in the race. You heard it. The same people who had called Brett Kavanaugh a threat to democracy for allegations he faced in high school are now dismissing similar allegations against their own candidate. Joy Reid even brought up Kavanaugh, as you heard on the podcast, comparing the two situations. But here's the thing. If you have a standard, it has to apply evenly. You can't believe women when it hurts Republicans and then question women when it hurts your side. That's not a standard. That's a weapon. And people see it. Regular folks see it. Sitting at home watching this stuff play out. They see the hypocrisy clear as day. That's part of why trust in institutions is at an all-time low, because people are tired of being told one thing while watching another thing happen right in front of them. And now here's what I want to bring it home with, something practical. Joy Reid's advice to stay home if you don't get what you want is actually a great example of a trap that a lot of us fall into in our own lives, not just in politics, but in relationships and jobs and family decisions. The trap is thinking that if things don't go exactly the way we want them, we should just walk away completely. That mindset hurts you more than it hurts anybody else. Think about it. If you refuse to participate just because you didn't get your first choice, you're basically giving your voice away. You're losing your seat at the table. In elections, that means the other side wins. In life, that means you end up with no influence, no input, and no ability to make things better. There's a difference between standing on principle and letting perfect be the enemy of good. Sometimes you don't get everything you want, but you still show up because showing up matters more than getting your way. So what's the takeaway of all of this? You may ask. For me, it's this. Be careful who you are loyal to and why. Joy Reid's advice assumes that the Democratic Party brand is worth following only if it meets certain ideological standards. But for a lot of everyday Americans, the party brand stopped making sense a long time ago. When a party can't decide whether it wants to win or wants to be pure, it ends up doing neither, as you can see. And when they start telling their own voters to stay home because they didn't get the exact candidate they wanted, they are admitting something important. They are admitting that the coalition is falling apart, and that's not a Republican or Democrat thing. That's just a fact. So let me leave you with something from scripture on this one. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 15 says, "The simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps." That verse is talking about discernment. It's talking about not just following a crowd or a brand or a party because they told you to. It's about thinking carefully about where you're going and who you're following. And for folks who may not connect with the spiritual side, here's the same lesson in plain terms. Think before you follow. Don't let somebody tell you to sit out just because you didn't get exactly what you wanted. Your voice matters, your vote matters, and giving it away because you're mad at the people you usually support just means you gave your power to somebody who doesn't have your interests at heart. Be thoughtful, be steady, and don't let nobody or anybody talk you into silence just because things didn't go your way. That's the lesson. And I'll see you in the next one, family. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate. I love you guys. Appreciate you for rocking with me. Give this video a big thumbs up. On that note, family, peace.